Hello, welcome. I'm Hannah, and today I'm going to be considering the question, do I even like the Rowan 1111 quad? I've had this for a couple months now, and I've barely used it. I think actually you can tell that the only one that I've dipped into is this top champagne one here, and I wasn't crazy about it the one time that I did dip into it. I've wanted to be a Rowan person for so long. A lot of creators that I follow regard them very highly. I bought this palette when it was on sale at the BoxyCharm sale in like May, I think. So I think you can see that like I've had it for several months and have not used it. Is today 11/11? Yesterday was 11/11. Oh, that would have been so fun if I filmed this and I got it up on 11/11. Either way, I think for me the thing about this palette is like, it's not really a palette. And I think that I regard it the same way that I regard any of my individual shadows. I just did a video kind of talking about those, and I said in that like, I don't think to grab for my individual shadows. I think to grab for my single shadows, and after that it would be my palettes. But like, this isn't a palette to me in the way that like, it's not a color story, it's not a look. I feel like you would grab your accent shade from here and then make a look around it. So like, even though it's a palette, like it's just like, it's not a palette. So I wanted to compare it today to some of my beautiful single shadows. I grabbed out some that I thought kind of like fit the vibe of each of the shadows. I grabbed out two for each of them, and I figured I would start by like swatching them on my hand, and then we'll choose like one of these to go with each of these. Then I'll compare them on my eyes. And I think that will help me gather information about like whether or not this is something that I'm a fool to be missing out using while I have it, or if like it really is just a fantasy for me and I'm so much better off getting the effect that I want with these. I'm not necessarily going to be like deciding what to do with this in this video because like, although I said it's not a palette, I am planning on doing like a big palette declutter at the end of the year, and I'm going to make my final decision in that video. But I think that today I'll gather adequate information about whether or not I like this, and then I'll still have like some chances to use it and to change my mind or whatever between now and when I film that video in like a month or whatever. And yeah, I feel like I have fuzzies on my face. Does anyone else's cat like go against their makeup brushes so then when you put makeup on, you put cat hair on? Or just me? Okay, so the first shade in this palette, you know, there's names on the back of it. I don't think it really matters the names, but that one's either situation or hashtag. That's also always been a thing with me and Rowan. I hate their names. I feel like they are this really kind of like cool girl aesthetic, but then they have these like boomers trying to name cool things like after cool hip words, you know? Like, it doesn't feel authentic. It feels like, oh, I love hashtags. Kids love hashtags, right? And I'm just not that into it. For the comparison shades, I feel like I went with things that, I don't know, when I went through my palettes to look for shades to be comparable, I didn't like swatch things out. I didn't even like think too hard. I was just kind of like, oh, that fits the same vibe, and like that's good enough for me. I'm not trying to like tell myself I can exactly dupe this, because I don't really care if I have like exact dupes for them. I just want to know if I have like the effect but better, you know? Or like show that to myself, because I'm sure I probably do. So for this I grabbed Animal Kingdom from Menagerie that I absolutely love, and I grabbed Opulent from Cleona. And I'm actually going to even build up this 11/11 swatch a little bit more. I don't like, they feel kind of like thick putty to me. So this is the 11/11. I mean, it looks nice. It looks shimmery, it looks kind of wet. I do like that like deepness when it's not hitting the light. That's something that I think is cool in a shadow. Let's see how it looks next to the other ones. This is going to be Animal Kingdom from Menagerie. So you can see it's way more golden, but it's pretty. It's a pretty light shimmer. And then we have Opulent from Cleona. And this one I think is a much better match, but Opulent is way more kind of like rose gold than the 1111 one is. So I think that I'm definitely going to compare it on my eyes to Opulent. And you know what? Let's just do that right now. Why don't we just do like one at a time? Okay, so we're gonna do the 1111 one over here. Okay, that does look really pretty. Okay, I think I like that more on my eye than I did in the swatch. I think it does look really like nicely textured, and I think that's something that people really like applaud Rowan for being textured shadows in like the more mainstream market, like the Sephora market, that like you can't really find elsewhere. But let's pop Opulent over on the other one. They are different. And I know I said it's okay that they're going to be different, but that does kind of make it hard to decide. But I guess like the point that I was trying to get at is like, if my look was this, instead of my look being this, would I really be like, oh, I wish my look was this? Like, they're both nice, but I have so many nice things already like this that I do reach for, I do consider, and I do remember. And like this gets forgotten. But I think like right now, I like it on my eyes better than I thought I did. So that's interesting. Moving on. Next is this one that's, again, either situation or hashtag. And it looks like very taupey, very like gray taupey. This one's a little darker on the finger than I would have guessed. And I think it feels more putty-y and a little smoother than the last one did. To compare it, I grabbed Mystic Moon Pie from Divina, which is a shadow that I absolutely love. It's so gorgeous and sparkly. It has that like gray taupe to it also, but it does have like this red base that this one doesn't. So I don't want to say that's like a strike against it being comparable. I want to say actually that's like a strike in its favor because it's just a more interesting, nuanced shadow than this Rowan one is. And then I also have JD Glow Unexpected, which is always just like a shimmery gorgeousness. I love like the warm and cool in it at the same time. So this is 1111, and then Mystic Moon Pie, and then Unexpected. And I guess to be the comparable shade, I'm gonna go with Unexpected just because I feel like these two don't look related. These two look like they could be fraternal twins. I think I might have slid some sparkles over there, but whatever. So again, I'm gonna do the Rowan one on this eye. Yeah, I don't think I would wear this. I think it's the kind of thing that like, if you made me wear it, I could wear it as a base or something like that. But like realistically, like, I don't know, I like the tone of the taupe, but it's kind of just like too deep and like gray for me. I just don't really like how those shadows look on me as much. But Unexpected. Goddamn. That's funny how, like, absolutely different these two look also. But, like, this is a shadow that I would be happy and excited to wear all over my eye. And this is a shadow that, like, I would put on and either take it off or just completely cover it up with a different shadow. This one wins 1,000,000% because this is a shade that I would wear and love and cherish, and I do. You know, I feel like sometimes, like, makeup lovers can see things that they don't have in their collection and be like, oh, I need to buy a sparkly gray putty shadow because I don't have a sparkly gray putty shadow. But it's like, maybe you don't have that because it's not something that you use or wear, and that's okay. And this is something that I would use and wear. So the two on the bottom, I think this one, which is either Chow or Rosy, and this one, which is either Chow or Rosy. The first one looks like a little bit more of like a deep reddish bronze, and this one's more of like a copper. The reddish bronze one looks like it has a little bit more texture than the copper one. Let's see. So we're gonna start with the deeper one. And actually, like, when I put my finger in it, I thought it was going to feel more like the first one, which was definitely more chunky, but it kind of feels more like the gray, which was more smooth. To compare to that one, I grabbed two shadows, as I have been. The top one is the Monarch from Luxie, and the bottom one is Thankful from Pretties for Your Face. They are kind of like different in depth, but I feel like I'm not that much of a bronze person, so I don't have like the hugest selection of bronze, and that's okay. All right, so we have the Roman one. Very smooth, pretty, but very smooth. We have the Monarch from Luxie, which is also quite smooth, but I think it still does have more like micro shimmer in it. Or even like the Rowan one looks like it has like light silvery shimmer in it. And this Luxie one looks like it has like pinkish shimmer in it, which I never noticed or expected. And then we have Pretties for Your Face, Thankful, which is really pretty. Huh. I did a whole video about Pretties for Your Face shadows a couple months ago. They weren't my favorite, but I did end up wearing Thankful in that one, and I liked it. And, this is a little tough, because I feel like I like Thankful more, but I feel like the Monarch's closer. I think I am gonna go for Thankful, though, because, like, I want to show myself what I would wear instead. And I would be more excited to wear Thankful than I would be to wear the Monarch. I hope the concept of how I'm like duping these isn't too nonsensical. I just feel like sometimes there's a time and place to like look through your collection and painstakingly swatch everything out and try to see like what sparkles exactly the same way. But like for me today, like that's not it, because maybe it's also like I'm more drawn about the idea of this than I am about the actual shades in it. I think it's really never been about the shades in it, and I probably would have bought like a different palette if it was in the sale. And actually, in fact, I did have the cool one at one point. I had bought it from Sephora years ago and I returned it. Okay, so let's go in with this coppery one on this eye. Yeah, very like wet feeling. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, but like I can imagine also someone wanting this sort of palette to be like an easy throw it on like work makeup bag or something. But I do feel like these are too dark for me. I think if I had a deeper skin tone and they would be kind of like a shimmery accent, it would be nice. But I think for me, it's like too much of a contrast with my skin that like it wouldn't be the easiest to throw on, because I do have to worry about like the lines around it and everything like that. And I think powders can be easier to control with your finger than like those putties are. All right, over here we're doing Pretties for Your Face, Thankful. This is a weird shadow too, because it feels like very like rough, but I think that is what gives it that like nice textured effect. And once again, very different. This even might have been like a better comparison for the last shade in the Rowan palette, which we'll get to, but like this isn't the shade I would go for. This is the shade I would go for. So the first shade in the palette is the only one that kind of like gave me pause, because this I feel pretty similarly to the gray. I could make it work, but if I put this on, I would probably just like layer more shadows on top of it until it was mostly covered up, and then that would be my look. Okay, the last one is the coppery one. Feels like putty, but a little bit more hard. It actually kind of feels a little bit more like the first one, even though it doesn't have that texture that the first one has. And to compare it, I have Empress from Cleona. Empress is definitely like a pink, but just looking at it in the pan, like I just felt the vibe and I just wanted to include it. And then I also have Hot Rod from Luxie. So we have the Rowan one. Oh, and that actually does look more pink in the swatch than I thought. Interesting. We have Empress. Still more pink. And even I can see on my finger the shifts of like blue and yellow to it. Really pretty. And we have Hot Rod. And I think for this one I'm going to choose Hot Rod. I think it actually is quite similar in color, but it is like a way more dimensional, interesting shadow. So this eye is going to be the copper one. And this eye is going to be Hot Rod. I will say, I feel like this is my second favorite. Like, this is a shade that I could see myself using in my work makeup bag and kind of throwing it on without too much thought. But at the same time, like, this is probably also the best comparison that I've had so far. And this one would beat this one every time. Like, why would I not want to wear the one that has, like, a really similar kind of base color, but just way more of that light sparkle? Yeah. So I think I'm going to top this one over this one, try to make a look with it, I'll be right back. So here's the finished eye look. I really like it just as like a dynamic neutral look. I grabbed in 2 mattes from my Kylie Mauves palette, which has just been my kind of like grab and go mattes palette recently. A light one for my transition, a darker one for the outer half of my lower lash line. And as I said, I topped Hot Rod over the Rowan shade here. I don't think it really made any kind of difference that I have like a base down there. On the inner half of my lower lash line, I used Pretties for Your Face Thankful, which I am kind of surprised that it didn't like flake more applying it with a brush, because it is like a very kind of like flaky shadow, but I really love how it looks down there. And for my inner corner, I used Davina Pancake Bubbles. I was thinking as I was putting this look together that like, I wish these Rowan palettes were kind of set up more to be like a look, like to have some kind of like difference in tones or something like that. Like, wouldn't it be cool if it had like a light, smooth shade that you could use for like your inner corner or to brighten up a look, and then it had like a lighter, chunkier shade, and then it had like a show-stopping taupe to use all over the lid, and then it had like a darker taupe or brown or copper or whatever to be like a deepening up shade. And then you could actually take the 4 shadows, mix and match how you apply them to create dimension different ways, but like you have the ability to create dimension using the palette because the tones will be different enough, you know? That's what I would want this to be. But like what this is to me is like 4 kind of like lid shades or lid bases in my case, because they're not shiny enough for me. Maybe that first chunky one I would wear all over my lid, but like, I don't know. I am happy I'm not making the decision today, because I feel like I do want to try to like wear that first lid shade and see if that shade is like enough for me to like want this palette, or if I'll just feel satisfied giving up my dreams of being a Rowan girl. But yeah, these did not do for me what these do for me. And I think I did show myself that like the neutrals I have already are better than the neutrals that are in here. Here's another look at all those swatches before we zoom out. Yeah, I feel like this first Rowan one does kind of hold its own with like the level of sparkle of my Indie Single Shadows. But like this one is so bleh. This one looks okay in the swatch, but like, I don't know, not that exciting. This one's pretty bleh also. And it is so similar to Hot Rod, in my opinion, that like, it doesn't intrigue me in the least bit. I hope this was entertaining to watch. I'm so happy that I finally did dive into this Rowan palette that has just been like taking up space recently. I mean, like not that much space because it is like the size of a maxi pad. And it does have this nice little case, which is like inconvenient, but it's also elegant. And I feel like if this was my favorite, it would be kind of like a nice little thing to pull it out of its case, but because it's not my favorite, it just makes it easier to forget about. If you enjoyed this, please give me a like, subscribe, definitely stick around for the big palette declutter decision that will be coming later this year. And that's everything for today. Thank you for being here. Bye.